Hello everyone. Today's demo is going to be focused on how to make a watercolor study for our pinch pots. So I'm going to go over the rubric and show you the techniques. Maybe we'll do one more quick little thumbnail, not to waste too much time. Let's do a human skull. We don't talk much about how to draw a human skull in this class because this is 3D. So we should be beyond this point. So I usually start off with a ball and then a little rectangle on the bottom of that ball. And then your eyes are actually halfway in the middle between the chin and the top of the head. So halfway in between that is roughly right here. Then your nose is halfway between your eyes and your chin. So that's roughly right there. And then your mouth is roughly halfway between your nose and your chin. So somewhere right in there. And then usually it's, if you draw the mouth on top of this line. So this is going to be our skeleton teeth here. Okay. All right. So let's say that's good. So what we did here was we actually created ourselves this jaw, right? I'm going to go down here and put my nose right on that line. And then my eyes kind of focused on that part of the line. Right, I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time, right, because this is a demo on thumbnails right here. Thumbnails are really quick studies, very gestural. And let's say this vessel, you just drink out of a skull. Ugh, very morbid. All right, so I don't know. Maybe you could do something like that. I think it would tip over. So maybe we need some kind of spinal column or something there to hold it up. I don't know. It could also serve as a handle. We could get really creative with it. All right. So let's say we pick one, our favorite one. So that's what you're going to do today. You're going to pick your favorite one today. And then we're going to turn around and replicate that. One of the things that's going to be important is filling the page. So that's one of the points on the rubric. So if you look, my drawing is taller than it is wide. Well, I don't know. It's about the same. It depends on how big I make the foot and how tall I make the stem when I'm done. So if it were wider than it is tall, I would want to turn my paper landscape style. If it's taller than it is wide, then you want to turn your paper portrait style. I'm going to say this one's kind of a toss-up. We'll see. I'm going to do it portrait, though. So what I want to do, I want to try and fill my page as best I can. Maybe I can back out a little. There we go. So this drawing is going to be a little bit nicer than the drawing that I did. It's still, I'm still going to make it a little sketchy at first. And I'll come back and clean it up later. And you know what I can do? I can foreshorten that foot. So I can do that. So we're gonna have a big old ugly toe here. All right, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. Now I might come back in here, clean these lines up a little, maybe darken them a little, make them a little cleaner. My pencil's very sharp at the moment. Usually I like to thicken these lines up when I clean them up, but My pencil's been recently sharpened, so it's very, very thin and sharp. So we just have to do what we can. It may not be quite crisp and clean as I might want it, but it's okay for these to be expressive. You do want these to be nicer works of art than your thumbnails. There we go, problem solved. I didn't do that on purpose, but don't be afraid to change, your pencil lead according to what will fit what you're doing. And I got these really strong, confident lines here. All right, so this is our glass. We've done it. We got our original drawing. I can leave these scratchy lines if I want, and I do. But if you want to clean them up, you can. You can just go erase it. But I want this to be expressive. So now I'm going to come by and cover this in color. So these are watercolor pencils. So let me just show you the markings on here. What you'll want are the pencils that have this little golden paintbrush on them. So if you don't have one of these given to you by me, it may not work for this, but you want to make sure it's a watercolor pencil. So make sure it's a watercolor pencil. This won't work. During a pandemic, you got to do whatever you can do. So use whatever you can. But that's what we want to make sure. Now this one just barely has a little bit of that left. So we're working with whatever we can get here. So now I want to just lay down a good base color for this. I want to make this blue. And my coloring doesn't have to be particularly beautiful. Just so long as I get some pretty good coverage. You can go ahead and leave out your highlights if you want to. I didn't. I'm going to show you how to take care of that later. You see, I'm not taking my time and making these real naturalistic, right? I want this to be expressive, and I'm not taking my time making sure it's really neat, precise coloring, because I'm going to go back over this, right, with water. That's the whole point of me showing you the watercolor pencils. I just want to make sure I get some good coverage. That's it. That's it. That's all. All right. And then maybe I will take and use the complement of blue on the inside. So maybe I'll make the inside orange. Now, something I want to show you here in a second. I'm going to color this a little nicer. Not much, though. I still want it to be kind of expressive. I want it to have unity. But look, this one doesn't have the little golden paintbrush. So this is not a watercolor pencil. And I did that on purpose. And I think it'll still work. But it's not going to loosen up. So I want to show you the difference between the watercolor and the non-watercolor. Now this might be watercolor. I don't think it is though. It might just be a different brand. I've got a whole amalgam of different color pencils in that box. I try different pencils. Students leave their pencils here and they get mixed in. Maybe I'll kind of come in here and do a light little orange on these toenails. I don't know. All right, now the main thing I want to do now is pick a light source. So I'm going to say my light source is coming kind of this way. Okay, now you guys don't indicate your light source on your drawing. I'm doing this just for your benefit, but I can tell where your light source is when you're done. Okay, so you don't have to indicate it because it's gonna make a difference in how your drawing comes out. Okay, so there's a couple ways I can make my highlights, but let's say my light's gonna hit here, so there's gonna be a highlight over here. It's gonna bend around a little, but most of it's gonna be blocked by the time it gets over here to this side. Light will bend a little around a round object, but it'll only bend so far. So what I want to do is I want to come pull out my highlight. I can probably erase out a highlight, yeah, like that, but I want to show you different ways to make the highlight. So I'm going to erase out the highlight on this side, and then I'll show you a different way to make a highlight on the other side. Erase out a little highlight over here on the toe because it's going to be hitting right there. There might be a little highlight here on the edge of this foot, so we'll pull that out. All right. Now, if it's being hit over here, it's going to be blocked over here, right? So I'm going to go ahead and take my violet. This is kind of an analogous color here. It's darker. So I'm going to use that to make some of my shadows. You can also mix this with black, and it'll darken it right up. Once again, I'm not worried about too much about how pretty my coloring is. I just want it to get done. So it's hitting here, being blocked right here. Hitting here, being blocked over here. It's probably going to be, there's probably going to be a little bit of a shadow all the way running underneath the foot for the most part. Hitting here, blocked over here, right? This one's going to have a little bit of light. This toe is going to block the light from that toe. So we're going to have a little going all the way around on some of these. And then we're going to have the cast shadow, right? And I just noticed that this pencil is kind of like it's like a trick pencil. So my light's hitting here, it's going to be cast in that direction. I'll show you what I mean about trick pencil here in just a second. Oh, nice and dark so that I'll have a really good shadow when I go back over it with water. The more I get leveled on here, laid on here, the darker it's going to be. Look at this. What in the world? Only I could do that. Anyway. Now I'm going to go back over this with water. Got my trusty paper towel here so I can control the level of moisture in my brush. So I'm going to come back over here. I've accidentally covered up my highlight again, so that's one good reason not to worry about doing the highlights until later. You might get really expressive like me and just cover it up. Okay, I want to be careful with my violet. I don't want to mix that yet. I'm going to go over and do all the blue so I don't have to clean out my brush as much. Try to remember to leave out my highlight this time. All right, here we go. Now I can come back and loosen up my violet. I'm going to get over here in this dark violet first. I'm just going to break it up a little bit. At the edge of my shadow here. Oh, really fun. Really fun here. Now, something I can do, if I want to, I can really load this down with water on purpose. See how I'm really loading it down? And then I can actually use gravity as my friend. And I can make this dribble if I want. Ooh, really nice, okay? Wow. Wow, he's amazing. Okay, so you can do that if you want to. You can do that. You can control your dribbling. I want to clean this up a little, lighten it up a little. Then I'm going to come blend in these shadows to make a gradient. Because, like I said, light will bend around the cup a little bit. And so as it goes further and further, it's going to get darker and darker. So we want a little bit of a gradient to show that that light is bending around. Okay. Now, the highlights. So I messed up this highlight over here. One thing I can do is loosen this back up with my brush and then soak up that paint with my paper towel. You see that? It's like magic, right? That's a great way to get a little highlight there. So when you're doing watercolor, that is something you can do, so you can be aware of that. If you make a mistake, you can just soak it back up. or like I'm doing, you can use it for an optical illusion to make the foot look more round. Let me go back up here, still a little more of this blue. Put a little around the edge there. There we go. There we go. So I'm going to say this is pretty decent. We got to worry about this in here. Let's see. Wow, it doesn't do anything, right? It just gets it wet. Doesn't really mix it up because that was not a watercolor pencil. So what can I do? I can put in my shadow. One thing you'll notice, I can still do with it wet. I don't recommend this. I really don't. It can make some really dark darks. If the light's coming in here, it's going to be blocked mostly over here when it's hitting the lid, but it's going to be more visible on this side. The light's going to be able to hit inside here a little since it's coming up at an angle this way. And so it's going to be the darker over to the left, and it's going to get darker over to the bottom as well. So the further down it goes down in there, the darker it's going to get. So here we go. Let's kind of loosen this up, blend it in. Now one thing I could have used my blue as a shadow. I might just show you what that looks like over here to the edge. I don't think I will. So if I have orange over here, and I go over it with blue, and it work even better if these are both watercolor, but it should work regardless. Either way, it should work a little bit. All right. So one thing, look at that weird color. Okay. Now this is a yellow orange, but it still works. It's kind of a grayish green because it's got a little more yellow in there than a normal orange. So blue and yellow make green, right? Well, blue and orange, pure orange, make gray. So your complements, when you mix your complementary colors together, you get a kind of a interesting gray. A lot of times they'll have a color temperature, which most grays don't. So that is one really cool thing. You can make your own grays based on using complementary colors. All right, so this is my study. It's got a light source. It's got highlights, shadows, gradients, cast shadows, and it is filling the page to the best of my ability. If you make it a little too small to make sure it fits in, that's fine. Don't worry about that. I'm not going to come by and penalize you. You just don't want it to be your paper turned this way and then your project to be wider, and so you've got all this blank space up at the top and the bottom. Or you don't want to turn it the right way and then draw this little drawing somewhere in the middle. You want to try and fill the space you're given. So if I wanted you to draw a little drawing, I would give you a little sheet of paper, right? That's our watercolor study. You guys will be able to do your own. Good luck. I actually filled my paper a little too well, so I created a tangent up at the top. I just wanted to point that out for design purposes. All right, guys. Until next time.